now. Good morning, everyone. Say hi, Neal. Say hi.
Hey. How's it going, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to our stream.
All right. Like always, we have a little bit before we start to make sure everything is sounding and looking okay. Please let us know if everything sounds and seems okay. We had to kind of reconnect everything as we used a lot of these the same gear for our retreat this past week, so that was fun. All right, let's see. Okay.
Oh, I should tune real quick.
Awesome. I'll let Sarah say hi too. I'll put her on screen.
All right. Aloha, everybody. It's so nice to have somebody here in studio. Yay! Awesome, Neal. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hey,
Yay.
glad to be here.
Aloha, everybody. I am super excited. This is a really fun song that I've always really enjoyed. And it's funny because I always love when we have Neal on as a guest because he'll end up picking songs that I always kind of have oh yeah, I haven't done that song in years, or it's been forever since I played that tune. So I always love it because it kind of like gives a nice refresh. And I think one of the things that I love about this one too is, and we'll go more in depth into it, is like, it's like just 1 6 2 5 progression all over the place. And so if you've done like some of our past live streams, you'll be like, oh, I totally recognize this pattern. And also if you were at our retreat this week, I had a big class on that, and it's full of that progression. So some of the tricks that we talked about, you can totally use on this song.
Definitely.
Which that retreat was a blast.
My goodness. My goodness.
Like being in person and being with everybody, it was really amazing. So, yeah, I'm excited. We're already making plans for next year. We don't have dates yet, but yeah, so we're super excited.
Very magical.
I love seeing all folks from all over the world. We've got folks, of course, in California, Washington State, as well as Oregon. I think I saw somebody from Germany already. As well as the UK. And of course, here in Hawaii, I love seeing folks who are like, aloha from Waikiki, aloha from Kona. Like, it's always fun to have island folks joining us too. Aww. Strum on moto, that's funny. Rub it in that we could. There's next year though. You can join us next year. It's gonna be a ton of fun. Yeah, we're having after this we're having it's a meeting but spelled M-EATING. We're having a meeting after this to discuss next year, so we can go ahead and start planning, because we're always planning. We try to make plans for stuff that we host at least a year in advance, just because it really does. I don't know, it helps make things run smoothly, because that's, I think, the biggest thing that I loved was how smooth everything went.
Yeah.
So we got really lucky. Part of it was the group of people. Like, we had an amazing group of people that, like, they made everything so incredibly lovely, and I'm very grateful.
All right, I think that's set up. Let me put all of us on for a second.
Yay!
Hey,
It's
there
everybody!
we go. Yay!
Yes.
Can we play a little bit first, just get warmed up a little bit?
I would love to.
Let's do it.
That sounds lovely.
My tune? Try to play G.
What song are we going to play?
That's a good question. We can play that.
Honey, baby.
No, I'm just kidding. What are we playing? I just want to know what tuning I'm going to play.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that one.
Yeah, how about we do that?
That's fine. You can do it whatever speed you want, because that was
We'll
slower.
follow you.
Go for it. We'll follow you. We'll follow you.
Kaula na mai nei ao palakua he niki niki ahi ahi ka ho mea o pani o holo kaulana mai nei a o palakua e niki niki ahi ahi ka homea o paniolo. Oh, great. Good thing Yes. Hevehie kuulei a o ulupalakua ona me ta'awapuhi he nani maoli no. Hevehie kuulei a o ulupalakua ona me ta'awapuhi he beauty maoli no.
Sorry about that.
Cool go for that. You want to do one? Nice. Yeah. Nice. Haina. Haina mai ka puana a o ulupalakua e niki niki ahi ahi ka homea o paniolo. Homara paniolo, haina pao. Haina mai ka puana a o ulupalakua e niki niki ahi ahi ka homea o paniolo.
Woo! That was fun. Nice practice.
Oh my gosh. This week was special. This week was so special. Being able to
Rub it in, Craig. Rub it in.
play music with other people again, to share music. It was incredible. This gives me hope that things are, moving in that right direction. And for all of you who frequented some of those festivals around the world, it's I think all of us are finally really ready and feel safe enough to do so. So I think we're in a good place at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For
And
now.
Manuka is like in 2 days.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That's
right.
crazy. That's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be another fun one.
I know it's so good to see all these ukulele festivals popping up again. All our
Yeah.
Yeah.
get to see friends and stuff. And,
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things was to hear, from this week from attendees, like how much they didn't realize how important music was in their life until
They couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, at least
Yeah.
not with people.
Yeah.
Right. They could still do it at home, but
Yeah.
not always the same as being together.
Yeah. It's the cat's meow.
Yes. That was one thing that was really fun. We didn't realize Milo, our bassist, joined us, and he hadn't played music with people in over 2 years. And so it was funny. It was like riding a bike. We all kind of started off, and it was all a little tenuous at first, and then all of a sudden, it was like no time had passed, and we were all playing. It was really fun. I'm very, very grateful. Oh, Staff Sterling! Woohoo! I recognize some of you folks from last week. It's good to see you guys here.
A lot of great people in the chat. Greg, miss you guys too. There's so many. There's so many wonderful friends in the chat right now.
Yeah, we are excited. This is just. Aw, Neal's infectious happiness is a gift in itself. Thank you, Mike. Craig and I completely agree. Completely agree. Absolutely. And hopefully some of you guys out there are starting to feel a bit more comfortable and are getting a chance to actually go out and check out some of these festivals and things that are starting to pop up. Because it is really, it feels really good to be to at least feel comfortable enough to kind of take a little tenuous step out and be like, okay, I think I can do this. It's been really nice.
Yeah, so Neal has this whole workshop planned out. Sarah and I will be in there a little bit to,
It's mostly Neal.
to inject a few things here and there, but this is going to be an incredible workshop with Neal. Can we do one song before we officially get started? One more song before we officially? Is that okay? with you
Technically, the
guys?
timer says it's
Well,
4
yeah,
minutes and
4
change,
minutes.
so that's
That's
any
perfect.
time.
Again, it's been way too long, so we've been trying to play as much as we can together before he leaves again. What'd you like, Brad? You lead. You wanna do your honey baby? You wanna do?
God. Are we gonna do the what's it called? The
The
you're gonna
Or
switch
medley?
instruments.
Yeah.
I don't know if people can hear that, Craig.
Yeah, it's okay. It'll be fine. It's clean enough. Acoustic.
Yeah, let's do a little honey baby then.
Okay. So is it A, C sharp,
C sharp minor, 7.
E?
7? Any 7.
Yeah. So if you know Drop Baby Drop, you know this song too. Yes. It's in the key of A, as Neal just said. Oh, I'm like, it's A, but I'm holding what looks like a D because I'm playing baritone. So A, C sharp minor 7, B minor 7, and
Or
then
do we
E
have
7.
a quarter inch anywhere?
Yes, there is. I can reach for it, but it might mean you might see me reaching for it on Neal's
Okay,
cam.
I'll put Neal on camera for a second.
Here, let's do a little introduction to honey baby.
Sorry.
Oh, so pretty.
So beautiful. Jeez.
Yeah, let's try him.
Yeah, let's get him. No promises on that second verse, though. You know, it gets a little high up there, so.
It's all right. It's all fun here.
Exactly. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh. Oh yeah. Got him. We got him.
Let it simmer. Saw you there standing under the mango tree, and a beautiful woman who looks so fine to me. She had all the things that I've been searching for. She had a hair, a flower in her ear, and bongo shorts.
Yeah.
She's my honey baby, my honey baby, my honey baby, my honey baby. And that I want you to know that wherever you go, and I won't be far away. And as I kiss your lips while you sway your hips, you'll just hear me say, she's my honey baby, my honey baby, my honey baby, my honey baby. how I feel for you. And every word I say, yes, you know it's true. And before I go, well, there's just one more thing, my darling. I give you total commitment, girl, with this wedding ring.
Aw.
She's my honey baby, 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 my honey baby. Yes, I want you to know that you're mine all of the time. Now rain or shine, honey baby, you're mine. Yes, I want you to know that you're mine.
That was fun.
I was gonna do more harmony, but like, no. It's kind of high for 9 o'clock in the morning.
I was thinking the same
So
thing.
sorry. I was like,
Ooh, there's that note. It's way up there.
Yes.
oh my god.
It's a little early.
Oh,
Oh,
Funny.
that's fun.
okay. Oh my gosh.
Right. Well, let's fall in love.
Okay.
That was great.
All right, Neil, you ready to take it away?
I think so. I think so.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know who Neal Chin is one of the nicest souls you will ever meet.
Oh my God, yes.
On this planet, and
Yes.
luckily he chose to pursue ukulele and share that with us because Sarah and I both think he brings an incredibly gentle way of teaching ukulele to people. And as you'll see, there's a lot of complexity that he does add in a very nice, easy way. So we were very excited to be hosting him, not only for this event, but we've worked with him on our ukulele cruises before, our retreats. And we can't praise him enough for being a wonderful person and an incredible ambassador of the ukulele,
Yeah.
both as a performer and a teacher. So we hope you enjoy your workshop with him today. And without further ado, Mr. Neal Chin.
Neal Chin.
Woohoo! Jeez, with an intro like that, I hope I can live up to that. Just following your lead, my friend. Just following your lead. Welcome, my friends. Welcome to our workshop today on the wonderful Cole Porter song, Let's Fall in Love. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be kind of going through a basic analysis of the song to kind of get our heads wrapped around how to play the tune. And then we're going to look at a chord melody of the song itself and a couple of strategies to arrange a great jazz standard like this for the ukulele. And actually, we're going to squeeze in a little bit at the end too, a little bit of talking about soloing as well, because I feel like this is such a great song to practice soloing on a jazz standard because of the changes and whatnot. Kind of really gives a lot of freedom for you to explore different sounds. And of course, if you want to get really specific and do, chord changes and whatnot, or playing the changes, this is a great way to get started as well. So, as you can see, we got the packet up here, and what this is just what we call like a lead sheet of a song. And, one of the things I think that's worth mentioning is that, when you're learning how to play or arrange a song, the more sources of information that you have, the wider your imagination can go, And so when you have sheets like this, here's one example of one, but I do encourage you to go and explore other ones as well. There's tons of great sheet music out there for this song. This song has been covered so many times in so many great renditions. And so I encourage you to do that. And alongside of that, I'd also mention listen to the song. Because the more of the song is internalized inside of you, the easier it is going to be to bring out different aspects of it.
And especially, I dare say, once it's internalized, that's when it gets to be really fun because we can kind of start to paint, so to say, with some of these chords and change little things and whatnot. And that's just one of the greatest things. So let's get started, actually. I think it'd be great if we could maybe run through the song one time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Sounds awesome.
I think we're going to have Sarah join me here, and we're going to kind of just run through the tune and just so we can kind of get a good feel over it. Now, actually, I'll tell you what, one thing real quickly before we do get started. If you're taking a look at the lead sheet up here, I do have, these box chord charts that are above the melody line. And, there are some particular voices, like you might notice that E minor 7 in this area over here kind of goes up the fretboard. Or, there might be a particular position of E7 suspended here that's you might know differently. And especially when we're going through it this first time, don't necessarily worry about playing the exact positions. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to encourage you to investigate them later on, as we will together too. But don't worry about playing the exact changes, because the first thing we want to do is just to internalize it. So, on that note.
All right, let's see if we can fall in love. And we'll see how we do. I sing this with different lyrics to Cameron, so let's hope I don't let those lyrics come out. You guys ready? Let's give it a shot. And you're going to play with me too, yeah? Neal?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
yes. I would love to, yes.
Follow Neal, everybody. I'll do my best. And here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Our hearts are made of it. Let's take a chance. Why be afraid of it? Second verse. Let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it.
2, 3, 4.
We might have been meant
Nice.
for each other.
Nice.
To be or not to be, let our hearts discover.
Nice.
Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we're young.
Nice.
Let's fall in love. Nice. You want to just end on C for now?
Yeah. Just like that. So I'm sure, for those of you who are not familiar with this song, I know it's been used in film, and I know it's been used on Broadway and whatnot as well, too. So I don't know if that kind of somewhere creeped in the back of your mind. Like, I might have heard that before. But as you can see, it's a really nice, gentle tune that's just really moving, kind of like, basically every 2 beats there's a chord change. And the melody is, quite elegant, moving through all those 1, 6, 2, 5s. So, why don't we actually take a moment here just to take a really quick analysis of the song. And, I like to do this in general just to kind of set a roadmap for where we're going to be going, yeah? Now, like Sarah was mentioning, there's again, tons of 1, 6, 2, 5s all over this song. And, what does that mean? For those of you who are unfamiliar with using those changes, basically that's just a numbering system to kind of quickly talk about chord changes. So if we're in the key of C, what we basically do is we put C on the number 1 and just count up the scale from there. So that's going to be C would be 1, D would be 2, E would be 3, and et cetera, et cetera. So as we kind of quickly zoom in right here, whoop.
Whee!
Sorry, I hope it didn't make you too dizzy there. But we can see just within this first 2 measures of the song, we already have the 1, 6, 2, 5, or a C, A minor, D minor 7, and then G7. And just for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to mostly focus on the root movement, or just the big letter that's inside of each one of those chords. And So for example, we're just going to look at the C part, the A part, the D part, and the G. And I like doing that too because it kind of gives a little bit of flexibility here because it might change a little bit. The quality of those chords can change. So, you know, here we're doing it as C, A minor. I should do it here. C, A minor, D minor 7, and G7. But I think it works totally great too, actually. If we go C, maybe something like A7. If we're getting real spicy, maybe even a D7 and a G7. Still counting that as a 1-6-2-5. And it's such a great template for looking at these chords because as we progress through, we go to the next two measures, we still have those same two chords, this 1-6-2-5, or the same two measures, excuse me. And as we progress forward, we look over here, and it looks suspiciously familiar, right? Everything kind of is really lining up with, oh, excuse me, with what we have. Let's get a different color here too. Yeah, these are all the same types of chords here, but these two fellas are just a little bit different in this first line here. And so we would call this, because it's an E, a 3-6-2-5. And this is a very common change that we can use in jazz because the 1 chord and the 3 chord are really much, very much the same. And in fact, I think it's kind of fun to interexchange them when you're playing, especially if you have the pleasure of playing with other people. It's kind of fun because it can sound really nice with your neighbor. Now, as we move through that, basically we get to the ending of the first verse, and we have this little turnaround over here, and again, doesn't that look suspiciously familiar? If we look at the root movements, once again, we have the same chord progression as we just did, a 3-6-2-5. And the qualities have changed a little bit. And so this comes up to one of my first points here, is that especially when we're playing standards like this, excuse me, there we go, is that oftentimes there is a particular form that's, you know, being played upon. And so here, you know, I think it's pretty safe to say, not in every situation, granted, but it's in most situations, that we can think of, you know, a section of a song as being divisible by 4 of some sort. And so in this case, we basically have 8 measures for our first verse. And as we continue forward, basically there's 8 measures in each section of the song. So, really quickly, we can see here that we look at this, that's 8 measures, right? And that's going to conclude, just as we were talking about the first verse. As we continue forward, we just have the same exact thing in another 8 measures, or excuse me, not the same exact thing, but almost the exact same thing, because as we get towards the end here, this part changes. And so, when you get to the end of a section, I think it's just good to, especially in a jam session, to kind of keep your ears up, because that's a musical way at the end of those sections of saying that we're going to go to this section of the song or this section of the song. And that's often the kind of the function of this and this. So, in something like this, we might refer to this as a turnaround, right? And these turnarounds are fantastic because they turn us around back to a particular part of the song, and oftentimes it's the beginning. So when we finish the first verse and we do this turnaround, this takes us over to the second verse. Boop. There we go. Boop. Okay, and as we do this second turnaround over here, we notice that we have some new chords. We have this E7 suspended 4 and E7. And we're going to talk about that actually too. I know, those suspended chords are so tasty. But this part over here, that E7, really makes our ear want to hear an A chord of some sort. And so, conveniently enough, we move into the bridge of the song. And the bridge of the song, very much so, in a lot of these standards, is different than the other parts, or different than the verse of the tune. So we kind of get more of a minor feel, we kind of move more towards an A minor sound, and we can see that the chords do change a lot in the beginning. And one thing that I think is worth mentioning as well is look at the how much, or actually, excuse me, I should say how little chords there are in those first 4 measures of the bridge. You know, our ear starts to get kind of, I don't know, sometimes I think of it as like climatized, you know, to what it's been listening to, because repetition legitimizes in music. Well, actually in everything, really. Be weary of it. So in this case, right, if we're used to hearing chord changes every 2 beats, bum, 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 when we get to the bridge and all of a sudden there's no chord changes for 2 whole measures, it's going to feel so much more drastic. And on the first tangent, I'm going to say here is that that's one of the things about the ukulele in general that I think is fun to do. It makes it kind of a challenging instrument to arrange on, because we have a limited amount of volume, we have a limited amount of range as well to work with. And so, you know, there's oftentimes, and I'm very much guilty of this myself, oftentimes I want to just keep adding more and more, get louder and louder, for example. But oftentimes I think it's good to just keep the perspective of what I like to think of as the room. If that metaphor applies to volume or applies to chord changes or complexity, is that, you know, if you want a big room, you don't necessarily need a high ceiling if you have a low floor, right? And if we can kind of increase on both of those sides, even better, just a little bit here and a little bit there, we have a bigger space to work through. And I think this is kind of one of the virtues of this song, because we can see that in motion within the chords too, which might be kind of nice to think of when we move over to arranging it for solo ukulele too. Might be a good place of inspiration. Last but not least, after that, we can see that our chords return back to normal. And we even see our good friend here, a very similar chord progression, right? Our 3, 6, 2, 5 to take us into the last verse. All right. Now that's Let's Fall in Love in a nutshell, right? Now we kind of know a general route of where we're going to go. We have 2 verses in the beginning, we have a bridge, and of course another verse at the end. Very common, right, form for these types of jazz standards. So, let's start digging. Now, as you can see here, once we've internalized the song and we're comfortable with it, and maybe we've even explored some different, you know, versions of the tune, now we can start to settle on maybe a more succinct vision of what we want the piece to be. And I'm a diehard Frank Sinatra fan myself, especially anything he does with Count Basie. And so definitely this is going to be very much reminisce of that version, Frank Sinatra's version of Let's Fall in Love. And because of that, you know, if you're not familiar with that version of the song, no worries at all. You know, in essence, it's a big band version of the tune, and it's really upbeat and syncopated, and the horn sections are blaring in the background, and it's short and sweet too, which I appreciate a lot. You know, there's a certain elegance in being able to express an idea elegantly like that. And so, because of that, we're going to look at just a couple of little devices here in the song. Now, I'm going to actually attempt to play it for you right now. I'm just actually doing a real quick scan here. And all I want you to do is think about the way that Sarah and I were playing it earlier, yeah? And now listen to the way that the song kind of just will take a slight change, and see if you can hear any differences between them. And maybe even see if you like something from this one, or you might like even from when Sarah and I were playing it together. Because it's always good, and always, you know, it always is worth mentioning, I should say, that pay attention to the things that you enjoy. I know it sounds maybe obvious for some of you out there, but you know, follow your inspiration. You know, in a world where you can go anywhere, all the information is almost just basically at the tips of our fingers. You know, having vision oftentimes is more effective than information. But I digress. So let me play for you a little bit of this solo arrangement of Let's Fall in Love. All right. Ooh, gotta shake it out a little bit. Shake it out a little bit. Okay. You guys gonna like this? 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, chord. Let's do it again. 1. I'm just making sure you're listening. You're listening. You know. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The C. Thank you. There we go. Damn.
Yeah.
Let's fall
That
in
was
love.
so beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. I've been here all week. No. Bad joke.
So we have like 18 people ask in the chat, does it sound better on high G?
No, they did not.
Well, you know.
Only one person, Craig.
You know, that is a perfect segue, Craig, because let me tell you what. Let me tell you what. No, actually, there's a little strategy here that we're going to look at that while it does work great for high G too, we're actually going to really kind of take a look at how to use this low G and to emulate that
Yay.
as a bass line. And, you know, let's actually go for that now, okay? So, as you can see, the arrangement's all there. And, you know, at first I was thinking that I would walk you through every little bit and piece of it, but I think you folks can kind of take a look at it, and I think it's actually better if you bite off little pieces of it that make sense for you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at, again, some just little junctions and little strategies to kind of navigate something like this. Now, okay, speaking of the G, okay, one thing that I think is a really great and effective tool, like especially, actually, I'm going to jump forward a little bit, is that when we're doing something like the bridge, right? The song, again, right, it opens up a little bit, and there's extra space because there's not as much chord changes as I was mentioning. To be quite honest with you folks, yeah, just to kind of show you the process, this was one of those things that I started doing as a kind of almost nervous tick, if you will, almost, or a way to just kind of keep time. But it ended up kind of being a really nice musical idea that I kind of ran with. And all it is that when you have empty space, instead of comping on the, you know, with every single string, or even kind of like abbreviating the strings, as is like common for like gypsy jazz, or, you know, certain types of swing where we have like this. One thing that I like to do is I like to pretend I'm a bass player, because in secret, I really wish I was a bass player. And what I like to do is use the side of my thumb here, and especially with a wound low G. In particular, I might add with a flat wound low G, like the labella one that's located in the uke logic strings set, I can just brush across this one string like this, and it kind of sounds like a droning bass almost. Thank you, Craig. I'll go a little bit slower. And you see, I'm not really attacking like with my nail like this, because if I do that, it's gonna get a little bit brighter. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more pronounced. And in this case, we want a lower floor and a wider ceiling, right? So I'm gonna put the melody, so to say, in the ceiling, and I want that bass line to be on the floor. And so by having that real rounded sound like this, watch this. Even as I just go and strum through the chords, I can go like this. Like a 1, 6, 2, 5, right? Oops, sorry. For those of you who like different positions of chords as well, this can be really fun because we can do stuff like this. So I do C, the time for it. Da, 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 da. And even as I kind of switch to being a little bit more rapid, there's a little push and pull, right? From that bass line that's relatively stable, and the chords that are kind of stabbing, on top. And I think that kind of creates a little bit of a wider range. So I encourage you to investigate that, because I have to admit, it's been a really fun ride to just kind of try out different movements just to move horizontally on your ukulele. We always joke, right? You paid for all the frets, right? So you might as well climb up if you'd like to climb up.
One small thing I want to add to that
Please.
is you might actually end up making, let me see, I don't have a low G on me, but that's okay. I might end up making different chord choice ideas. So sometimes when I do a 3-6-2-5 where I use the E minor 7 up here like he's doing, I'll move my pinky down and play A9. But if I'm wanting to play bass, I'll end up doing, and then make sure I play the A7 where I actually have the A note there, and then D minor 7, and then the G7, I've got the open G. So you'll make different chord choices if you're utilizing this technique as well, because you will want to have specific notes happening on that string. That's all.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I think that points to, why. Actually, here, I'll do it this one. Why we might use this E minor 7 up here, right? I always like having kind of like a cascading sound on the ukulele, And so, if we have that voice that's of an E minor 7 up here, like Sarah was saying, especially with the low G, we can get almost a descending bass line, All right, let me actually, I'm going to do this section. This is better. I'm going to go, yeah, it's a better example. So if I'm doing like this, well, you get the idea. Here. Okay, I'll take it a little bit slower, and if you'd like to join along, please do, please do. And let's take a listen, okay? So I'm going from E minor 7, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go 2, 2, oh, excuse me. Let me try that again. 1. And then G7. Okay. Now I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit, just to give you a little bit more of a bigger example, because it kind of moves quick there. If I can go like this. See, it's kind of fun to do, and a rare occurrence on a ukulele too. So it's fun to do in those voices. So one more time. Walking down to that A minor. There's G7, and we have that again. That bass is leading us down the fretboard, which is really nice. And so, on a side note, I'd also mention, when you're doing turnarounds, or I think, again, like 3-6-2-5 is great like this and whatnot, pick a direction to move in, And oftentimes I think it sounds great starting off by descending the fretboard. So that's where that E minor 7 up here, again, gives that extra bit of motion. And if we want to take it one step further, we could even go up here, right? To an E minor 7, up on the 7th fret, yeah. Let's do that again, okay? So I'll have this bar up on the 7th fret. And then I have the A minor 7 like this. We know this fella, the 5-7, 5-7. Such a lovely voice for the ukulele. One of the best. And then you have a D minor 7, which is a bar across the 5th fret. And then we move over to G7 in this position over here. So now with the technique, with the brushing of the thumb, okay, let's take a listen. Okay, I'm gonna go like this. 1, 2, I'm gonna stretch it out like this. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Just so we can kind of hear it a little bit extra there. Okay, let's try that again. 2, I'm gonna move it up. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Going 2, 3, 4. Just brush, brush that string. Now I'm gonna get fancy. I'm gonna keep moving down. Watch. D minor. And the G7. Let's, and etc. etc.
Ooh, what a beautiful intro.
Kind of little
Neal.
descending thing. Isn't it great doing those 3/625s and 1/625s for intros, you know? And not to mention, it's a cycle too, so you can kind of keep going, you know, if you need to, you know, get a little bit of extra time in there, and if you forget what the first verse is or something, you know.
And actually, we
'Cause we know
forgot
we've
to
all been
mention
there.
this in the beginning, but again, we're showing everything in the packets on screen today. Because again, we want to share as much as we can. If you do want your own copy and you do want to support these live streams, the workshops, again, you can visit craigandsarah.com/live, or you can directly donate. But this helps keep us bringing in helps us bring in special guests like Neal and keeps these live streams going. But again, we want to make sure we have everything up on screen as well, so you can also enjoy this. So just wanted to throw that out there because this arrangement is really, really fun. Again, thank you,
Yeah.
Neal, for putting this together.
Oh, absolutely.
And Sarah, if you don't mind, what was the diaper club packet for this month?
So for
yeah,
this
that's
month,
cool.
in celebration of our in-person ukulele retreat Hawaii that just finished, I've actually included, there's a 3-part arrangement of sophisticated hula that we touched on during the retreat, but everybody got a copy of. And the Diaper Club actually has that arrangement, and you will have access to the video of me just playing through it. I'm not teaching the arrangement. I'm just playing through the parts and singing so that you can hear it, see it, and you can share it with your ukulele clubs if you would like, because the idea behind creating this arrangement is so that people can play in parts and get to enjoy making music together and sound kind of like a big band. So that's what's in the Diaper Club packet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic arrangement. I can safely testify to that. It's really nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to move forward a little bit, and one of the next elements I thought would be fun to talk about today are suspended chords, or sus chords. Now, I'm going to kind of zoom in here. I apologize. Buckle up, folks. Here we go.
Hey, that was a pretty good one. That was
Pretty good, right?
That
That's
was
smooth, right?
great.
I was practicing at the jam, you know, and that zoom in nice and smooth. No, okay, let's talk about suspended chords. If you're not familiar with suspended chords, fantastic, wonderful chords to add a little bit of extra movement. And there's a couple of different ways that we can look at these. And you might be familiar with different types of suspended chords. Namely, the two that we often hear are a suspended 2 and a suspended 4. Here in this example, we're looking at a suspended 4 chord. Okay, and so it's interesting. And actually, Craig, maybe if I can get a little close up here on my left hand. Thank you, sir. Okay, here at the end of the tune, and actually I'm going to zoom up a little bit more, put you in the center there. Okay, so as we transition into the bridge, right, we're using an E7 chord. And actually, quite frankly, I think it sounds perfectly fine if we just play E7, okay? But by adding in that E7 suspended 4, again, there's an extra bit of movement. And all it is, you gotta love these chords because they're really, oftentimes I should say, easy to adjust in fingering. So if you already know E7, making an E7 suspended 4 is just moving up your finger, in this case, our index finger, 1 fret up. And listen to that sound. That's really nice. And in particular, it sounds even better, in my opinion, if we put it in sequence. So if we have a suspended chord like this, and let's go, I know the tension, I can feel it right here, and just sit in the room. And then we release all of that by going to our A minor, or to the bridge, okay? Now, what is a suspended chord? Just a quick overview of it. I like to think of a suspended chord as a dominant chord or it can also be a major, just a regular major chord as well, but it doesn't have a third. We're taking out the third and either moving it to the 2 or the 4. Hence a suspended 2, which will go down, which in essence, actually I don't think I can reach it here, would move down, or in this case, a suspended 4 would move that 3 up to 4. Okay, and, I think a really great fingering one for the suspended 4, because again, we just got to move that finger up. Okay.
And usually it's the
4.
the 4 that people when you just say suspended chord. Usually that's implied with just the 4, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And so, because there's no third in there, it's a little bit harder to, I feel like, tell if it's major or if it's minor. In particular, I feel like it's hard to tell if it is a dominant chord or a minor chord. And that's kind of fun to play with. That's a fun element to play with, because if you think about that, if we're obscuring what that chord is, maybe our ear's not going to know where we're going to go, which it's perfect for the end of a section, right? Because maybe we want to, you know, surprise our own ears and surprise our listeners' ears, and that can be a great way to do that. So, having that suspended chord here adds that little bit of extra movement. So I'm going to actually rewind a little bit so you can hear what this sounds like. I'm going to play it first without the suspended chord and then with the suspended chord. Okay? And what that basically is, so you can see the whole line. There we go. I'm going to play this. Okay? And basically up to here. Just so we can hear the resolution, yeah? So, side note, tangent number 2. When you're practicing a section, it is good to zoom in, right, and practice maybe physically, especially if you're trying to, you know, get something underneath your fingers, like this section over here, to just practice that. But it is always important, especially when we're talking about harmony like this, to play it in context. So go from a little bit earlier of the tune, and this is where, if we observe the form, I think starting here, and this E minor 7 is a great spot, yeah? Because it's kind of the start of a new phrase. And we want to know where it's going to, right? That's, I think, is a great virtue of jazz, yeah? Is that we always are looking at where we're going in the harmony. And so here, we want to make sure we can hit that A minor 7 as well. So, let's take a look. Okay, so here's going to be without the suspended first. Okay, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, as written, with the suspended. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And moving up to that A minor 7. Yeah. And you know, coming back to what Sarah was saying earlier too, you know, this is, I think, is good to kind of notice if you're playing high G or low G, because we can really kind of pull out the strengths of both of them, yeah, depending on how we want to voice this chord. So here, it's such a huge movement because it's in the low G, right? It's the bass that's moving. But what if I were to do something like this? Here's an E7 in the second position, and just so you can hear the same sound, here's an E7 suspended 4, and here's that E7. Okay, so opposed to, yeah, both have their time and place there. So that's the suspended chords in a nutshell, and I encourage you to investigate other places where you can put these suspended chords. And I think a great, easy way to do it, again, is to start by looking at your dominant chord. So, where are some other dominant chords that we have in this song? If you're not familiar with the term of a dominant chord, often this is what we refer to as just a 7th chord, right? So we might think of this here as just, if you're in your ukulele circle and your neighbor asks what chord you're playing, chances are you're going to say this is a G7, right? But of course, since it's a full name there, we will call it a G dominant 7th. And this one here has that same movement. We can imply that same movement there too. Okay, so G7. And actually, Craig, if I could get a close up on those fingers. Thank you, sir. Then I have G7 here. G, A, B is our third, which is located underneath our ring finger here. Okay, so this is such a great one to use. And, just on a side note too, I feel like I hear this one a lot in Hawaiian music. So, the pinky there brings it up to the fourth. Okay, so in that movement, it's just so lovely if we go. There, I'm taking the same idea, and doesn't that look a little suspiciously familiar if I cut? No, that doesn't look good. If I cut off part of this chord, it looks like that E7 we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Okay. But a lovely little sound that we can play there. Yeah. Where's another example? Let's look at one more, and let's see if it works there too. It might work there. We'll find out. What about this D7? Will it work here? Let's find out. Okay, what if I go, and I'm just gonna sing the song just so you can hear it, okay? If this is our D7, doing the suspended there is gonna take our F sharp note up to G. Okay, so in the context of this song, we might go 1, zooming out. Okay, I might go 1, 2, 3, 4. We might have been meant for each other. Let's try that again, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We might have been meant for each other. It still kind of works there, but it doesn't have a slightly different feel coming from the A minor chord. And that's one of those things that at the end of the day, I'd mention, use your taste, use your ear, and trust it too. Because if it sounds good in your ear, it's good.
One thing I want to add to that is
please.
if you do have your packet, take a look at that D7 and look at the melody note that's being sung. The melody note that's being sung is that F sharp. So if you are singing this song, you might want to not do the suspended because you're making it harder to find your note. However, if you find that after playing this for a while, you're getting really good at hitting the note, you can then start to monkey with it. But that is one thing to keep in mind if you are a vocalist, is these chord substitutions and things are awesome and they sound phenomenal, but always check your melody note, because if it makes it harder for you to sing the song, then you might want to try it out a little bit later when you're more comfortable with the melody.
Okay, and one thing for you, Neal, we had some great eyes. Notice that some of the chords listed only have 3 notes in your tab.
Talk to us about that.
And I know there's a reason for that we kind of touched on in the chat, but I want to allow you to talk a little bit about the reasoning.
Oh, look at that segue. Look at that segue. That's perfect here. Now we approach the next element, the third element of what we're going to look at today. That's so satisfying. Thank you for asking those questions, my friends. Okay. One of the things here, and this style of playing, I always like to attribute to the great Gordon Mark. Fantastic arranger for the ukulele.
Amazing.
And if you've ever had the chance of ever taking lessons from him, one of the things that I love about it is like, he'll give you 3 renditions of the tune. A basic one, a slightly dressed up one, and then the Gordon Mark one. And it's such a great progression to see how he arranges music. Because, anyway, go ahead and check out Gordon Mark if you've not heard of him before. Fantastic player. But one of the things that he does excellently is that he'll strum down to the melody. And what that basically means is that we'll oftentimes abbreviate chords so that the melody note is the highest pitched note in that stack. So for example, right, that D7 in particular, here, okay? Yes, the chart is saying play this, and it doesn't really make too much of a difference either way, right? So you might as well just grab that whole entire chord, but because we're trying to hear that F sharp note that's right there, yeah, that's where we're going to abbreviate that. And I like to do this is to, again, strum down to the note. So I'll often use my thumb to drag down and then let the following string kind of catch my thumb like a little trampoline, yeah? Let's actually look at another example. What's a better one? I think it's that E minor 7 is a good one. Sorry, folks, here we go again. We might have been meant. Okay, so like this E minor 7 right here, right? Here, we're grabbing that position, but the melody note, again, is the G note. So we're going to make sure that that note is right on top of the chord, okay? Now, this one, I'm going to, quite to be honest with you folks, I'm just going to say take it with a grain of salt, okay? And just do what works for you. But what I'm going to try to recommend for you folks here is grab the whole chord if you can, okay? So, for example, on this E minor 7, in this passage, we don't even touch the A string. And sure, okay, we can just do our 3 fingers like this, right? But I'm going to still say, if you put your pinky down there, right, it's just going to help build up technique. And 2 things. What's nice here is that even though we just use this, we actually might get a little bit of a sympathetic vibration from the A string. So this D note might start to kind of ring out just a little bit in the chord, yeah? And this is, don't get me wrong, is a very subtle thing to hear, right? But it can be a really lovely sound to start exploring harmonics. So I highly recommend that if you can, try to grab the whole chord. Again, that being said, if putting your pinky down is the deal breaker to make that chord, it's not going to make too drastic of a difference if we just hold it like this, okay? Because again, we're abbreviating it, coming down 3/4 of the way through, and you see my thumb is catching that, like that, okay? As like a little trampoline. And this is kind of like the, I think of it as the pseudo Joe Pass method, and for those of you who are not familiar with Joe Pass, please do go look him up. You will be delighted. Wonderful jazz guitar player, one of the best, quite frankly. And one of the things that he always would mention in his classes is that he would grab shapes because he was a soloist as well on guitar. And the second element of this is that if we're holding an E minor 7, and let's say we want to decorate this spot up, okay, I, yes, can play the melody, but I might go, or I might go. I might want to add a little bit of that extra note. And it's already going to be there for you, right? And so the ease of it is that we can grab finger picking. Because maybe, like for those of you who enjoy playing rubato or kind of not necessarily free of time, but are kind of like to stretch out the time a little bit and like to get very poetic with your phrasing, as much just like I do, then it's really nice. We can go, or sorry. It's all position based.
And one thing I want to point out, and I do not need to be on camera for this, is if you listen to Neal play and he's adding in extra notes that are not part of the melody, notice that those other additions are softer than the melody that he is playing, so that your ear still has the melody hanging on in it, even with him adding those extra additions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where, if you kind of think about where we started today, right? The process was, we started off with the lead sheet. So here we go, folks, like this. It's a very stripped down version of the song. It just has the melody, right? And that's going to make it better for us because we want that to be, the leader there, so to say, right? We want the melody to be in front. And if that's internalized, when you start adding in those extra little notes and whatnot, it might even come a little bit more naturally to you, which I think can be a wonderful way to play and a wonderful way to investigate. All right, so that actually kind of wraps up most of what I wanted to talk about today, but there's just one tiny little element that I think would be kind of fun to investigate too.
Do it!
For you soloists out there, Okay, or for those of you who like to noodle around with single notes. Yeah. This song is a fantastic song, I feel like, to get started with soloing on jazz standards. It can be so intimidating soloing on a jazz song. I don't know about you folks, but when I first started, I kind of just always passed the buck to the person next to me because I got intimidated by looking at all of these different chords. But the thing is, when we look at something like this, what we can do is we can break it down into its essential elements and kind of start with what I like to think of as a starting palette, and then make small deviations from there. And I think if we make that method, if we go by that method, it kind of just frees up our mind a little bit more to move into expression or to maybe investigate other ideas. So, in a nutshell, okay, if we're playing in the key of C, right, the kind of general prescription here is going to be like, okay, well, if we're playing the key of C, then we can play the C major scale to accompany that same sound, right? And so if we're moving through Let's Fall in Love, I could maybe use all of those lovely notes, right? That's just our C major scale, or just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and another C on top, right? Coming back to our numbering system, right, as we can see, a lot of those notes are in the roots of the chords, like the 1, 6, 2, 5. I might go 1, which is the C, 6 would be A, 2 would be D, and then 5 would be G, right? See, they're all within that little scale right there, okay? And as we progress forward as well. Now, if we even investigate further, most of these chords are constructed out of those exact notes as well. Meaning, if we take a look and we deconstructed the way the C major chord was made. And actually, this is where I feel like just look at your ukulele, look at your left hand, and look at where this overlaps with C. Yeah? Because look at A minor, that all of those same notes are included. And we continue on, D minor 7's the same, so is G7. I'm just gonna jump ahead, folks. Sorry if it's a little fast, but if I move over to E minor 7, I play it down here, maybe that's a better example, we can see that again, it's still within that spot. So, what I would encourage you to do is find a backing track or strum with your neighbor, or record yourself too on your phone. There's a lot of great devices for that now. And then just try to, as I like to say, noodle a little bit, right, on top of that. So, hey, Sarah.
Hi.
I like play.
Hey, Craig. And Sarah. Can I have you guys play that 1625? Can we just loop that just for a sec?
Just 1625?
Just 1625
Okay.
for a moment, yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sounds nice, right? Fits. Okay, I'll go up now. See, all those sounds fit nicely, and even if we jumble it up. Or might add some dynamics. Just like that. And that can be already a fun way to investigate soloing, right? Now, this I think is one of the really fun things about soloing on jazz. Because now if we were to continue moving forward, again, all of these chords would really match, but we do hit a couple little roadblocks here, okay? Now I'm just gonna quickly outline these for you. Take a look at this. I'm gonna highlight this chord, you see it again here. Okay, and even as I move forward, and I'm gonna come back up to show you guys again, but if I do this, and this, or even this fella, whew, that's the spicy one. Okay? Why do you think I would be highlighting these chords here in yellow? Right? These chords are going to be incorporating notes that are outside of the scale. So for example, if we look at E7 here, we can immediately see that our index finger is playing not a G natural, excuse me, but a G sharp. Okay? So a way to play the changes, if you will, right, would be that when we get to the E7 in both sections, what if we introduce the note G sharp? Or maybe even think of it as, what if we take the G note that we usually are using and just scooch it up one fret? Yeah? This is going to kind of really hit the change and play the change a little bit more concretely, and it's just a really great sound, and it's very satisfying too, you know, when you're noodling and if you can hit those changes. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to kind of in particular, I want you to look out for this G sharp note. We're going to run through the first two verses, okay? And I'll give you a little bit of a heads up when that E7 comes up and when I'm going to start to approach that note. I want to see if you can hear it too, yeah? Think of it like target practice when you practice too, yeah? If you can just hit that note when the change comes, it's gravy, yeah? So, can we try it from the top?
Yeah, sure. And just the A section, I can just do it in a loop for you.
Yeah, actually, yes, let's go ahead and do that. Just the A section and we'll do it in a loop, yes.
1, 2, sorry, oh 1, 2, oh 1,
Gotta simmer.
2, 3, 4.
And measure 5. Here it comes. And do it again. Here it is again. And resolve.
Oh, hey. I went to the next one. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, junk, this guy. And so, you know, it also actually kind of did that on accident there, which is sometimes, you know, you got to just kind of roll with those. That's part of the fun. Like that A7, right? That's another one of those highlighted chords. And that A7 incorporates the note C sharp. Yeah? So I might try to grab that C sharp over that A7 chord. Yeah? And if you grab it, great. If you don't grab it, no worries. And that's the mentality that I would approach it at, is like take the leap and just try it. Yeah? And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised if you kind of come from a relaxed position on how much easier it is to grab things like that.
Can we play through the A section like a little bit more at speed, but can you do the first run through kind of solid with the melody, and the second time through, can you elaborate a little bit on some of this, on what you would do as to go off of the melody and create your own runs?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
And so just A sections.
Yeah.
Just
sorry.
A sections. Okay.
Okay.
So no, only the first two lines, we should say.
Yes, only the first two lines.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So 1, 2.
Thanks.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Spice up the melody. Here we go.
All the notes.
Oh yeah, that was the
Yes, that was us ending it.
that was the running joke, right? The shock.
Now, what we just did too, one of the questions that came up in the chat is how
Yes.
would we end a song like this?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, chat. Absolutely. So, funny enough, full disclosure, when I was arranging this tune, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just do the main sections, like the melodies and whatnot, and then after I sit with that for a while, then put the intros and outros. And I forgot to put the intros and the outros in this, but I have a feeling that actually there was a stream earlier that you can go check out with a bunch of great introductions and outros.
Well, yes, there was, Neil. It's our jazzy intros and outros live stream.
And it's like, I have a feeling a bunch of those are going to work excellent over here. But for just right now, right, a little strategy, okay? You remember we're talking about those chords high up on the fretboard? Yeah? We might want to start off with something like that, like a 3, 6, 2, 5. All right, guys, go 2, 3, 4. Let's fall in love, right? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Now, endings, it's always good to have that conversation before the song, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And I definitely would recommend, just first of all, just keep your head up, right? It's, when we get to this part of the song over here, when we get to the end, okay? But great ways to end tunes like this with standards, is definitely tagging the song, yeah? Or repeating a particular line. And something like this, right, the melody of the song, resolves here, the lyrics in a sense resolve here, right? Because, we're singing Let's Fall in Love when we get to this section, right? So we might just go back and loop maybe the last 4 measures of the tune, yeah? And one of the things that's nice here is if we think about turnarounds, or we think about this ending over here, now what we want to do is we want to find a chord or something in this section that'll somehow take us back to here. Yeah? And there's different ways to do this for sure, but a really kind of simple and really elegant way to do this is we play the 5 of the chord that we are going to, and that's going to give a lot of motion here. So, I would even experiment with, I'm not too sure how this will sound, to be honest with you folks, but let's try it together, right? What if we take out this and instead play the 5 of that, or play A7? So we have C, A minor, then A7 for a whole measure to take us back. That might be a way to do it, I should say, and let's investigate.
Turn it around.
Right? So, da 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 da. Da 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 da. Excuse me. Da ba ba ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba ba dum ba. Ba ba ba.
Yay!
Harmonically speaking, right? But you might have noticed right there, I started to feel a little unsure about that A7. I thought that maybe came by a little bit quickly. So by maybe adding in a little bit of extra space in the rhythm there, you notice how I started to syncopate it at the end, right? In the same way that when you're talking, right, the way that you phrase things, I think we can kind of imply that here, And so by adding a little bit of rhythm, kind of settles it down nicely at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, are there any other questions that are popping up in the chat, or?
Can you describe your custom Ko'aloha ukulele and what strings by chance? I think some people are wondering.
Yes.
Oh,
and
sure.
then I had a chord question when you're done with that.
Yes, please and thank you. I love talking about all of those things. So, yes, this is a black label Ko'aloha custom. Basically has a cedar top and has rosewood for the back. Let's see if I can get one. Scooch over a little bit. Get off axis. There we go.
Ooh.
Okay. Hey
It's
guys, you
Neal.
can see my face. And then, you should see what it was like at the retreat. I tell you, it was like this all the time. But yeah, we got koa binding, mahogany neck. Ooh, flip it upside down. Ebony fretboard, and as you can see, just because I miss home all the time, you can see Maui there. And this was actually Grizz's idea to put Maui on the bottom as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. And of course, the headstock that you might have noticed. I don't know if you've seen it yet. But yes, with the Black Label logo up top. Just right there with the slotted head too. Now the strings I've been using, actually I go back and forth. I always think it's fun to experiment, and really, the honest truth is like find what works for the ukulele and find what works for your vision, yeah? Now that being said, one of the things that I find that has worked excellent for this ukulele has been using uke logic strings. Personally, I prefer high tension strings because I like the way that they tend to ring out, especially higher up on the fretboard. I will admit that sometimes my hand will get a little bit extra tired, faster, I should say, than, if I was playing on something with low tension. But it all just depends on what you're trying to do, right? And so, on a side note, one of the things that I love doing on an ukulele is bending strings. And for me, having the pushback of the tension is really helpful. As I sometimes like to kind of joke around, is I want to feel the bend, I want to kind of feel that resistance a little bit. And often can help with sustain as well with that extra bit of higher tension. The thing here I'd recommend too to experiment with, I think this happens for a lot of individuals, is that especially when moving to low G, kind of the initial idea is to get a string that is the same material, right, as all of the other strings that you have. And I went through that too, and I liked it because, and it's great if you really want a perfectly even tone, yeah, when you're going through things. But again, experiment with strings because I had a friend of mine actually who just said, Neal, no, you gotta use the wound string. It has a particular sound to it. It has a particular resonance. It has a more sustain and whatnot. And so after trying it out for a little while, it started to grow on my ear, and you would be surprised what time will do to your taste. So I feel like if you just kind of keep yourself open and receptive to different sounds, like be careful of your initial judgment, like observe it. Definitely observe it, but be careful of it, yeah? And then investigate, yeah?
I just realized what I want to pitch Andrew Katakis. I want there to be like a discounted bundle pack of strings with different labels of like what to kind of expect. And so you can go through this journey of...
Call it the String Quest package,
Yes.
right? So people who
Wouldn't
are...
that be
Trademark.
amazing? Like,
Trademark.
Trademark.
oh, I'm going to call him right after this.
That's a really good idea.
Oh
One
my
thing
gosh.
that I actually realized I was going to ask you, but I think I could actually answer it if that's okay.
Please.
Is somebody had asked the question, a measure's 23. You have E minor 7 and A7 flat 9. Why are you doing
yes.
the flat 9?
Yeah.
Well, look at the melody. The melody note is that B flat slash, as he's written here, A sharp, right? You're holding that note. That was really deliberate, and so that you've got that note there. So just... Nels, you were asking, and that's why. It's because
that's
it's in the melody. A lot of times when you see in standards, you'll see like sharp 11, sharp 5. Many times, if it's written in the lead sheet that way, it's because the melody note probably is that crazy note, and that's why they're wanting you to do it. You can add some of those crazy notes in and do chord substitution, but that kind of leads back to what Neal was saying about let your ear be open, because when I first started playing standards, I did not like the sound of like augmented chords and stuff like that, because to me it was like, oh, that's so crunchy, ew.
Yeah.
But then the more you listen to jazz music, the more you play the songs, the more you start thinking, ooh, I want more. I want a little more color, a little more spice. It's like eating spicy food, right? You can build up your tolerance, and your ear can do the same thing with all of these different cool things that you can add. And like what Neal was showing with the suspended chords, your ear might not like it at first, and just play around with it, be open to it, and eventually you might find yourself adding them into songs that you never thought you'd add them before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
lovely.
love it. This has been such a fun lesson. I'm so glad everybody's
Nice.
enjoying themselves in the chat. Don't forget
good.
to like this lesson too, and also it's free. Share it with your friends in your
And
uke clubs.
I also added in the chat Neal's YouTube channel, so please
Yes.
subscribe.
Oh, thank you.
He does a week, wait, it's not weekly anymore, right?
Not weekly anymore. It is monthly. It's on the first Monday of each month, where I just go in. It's a really casual stream. What I've been streaming on Facebook, I've been calling it our Noodles and Hangout, where, I mean, it's kind of like this, but it's just very informal, just watching me noodle and kind of talk story about different ukulele concepts and whatnot. If you want to join us, definitely go ahead and, add me on Facebook and whatnot, and I'll be posting up times and whatnot there. I'm going to be switching it to the evenings. I was running it in the mornings during the pandemic, just because it was a good flow for me, quite frankly, to get started in the week. But, we're going to move it to evenings because, evenings are better.
Do we have any more questions for
I
Neal?
think that's it. Oh, Moses is here. You gotta start over.
Start over.
Oh, okay.
From the top.
Today we're going to be looking at a song called Let's Fall in.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. It was a fantastic lesson with Neal. Neal, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Again, big aloha to our Artist Work students. Again, Sarah and I are able to do all of these different things with your support.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who purchased the packet for today's lesson. And the best thing you can do is share, keep learning, keep strumming, enjoy your ukulele. And we cannot wait. We can say this with certainty now. We cannot wait to see you guys soon as things are opening up.
Yes.
It's been amazing. Huge thank you to our retreat attendees who spent the week with us here in Hawaii. And our special guests that popped in, Kalega Miao, Corey Fujimoto, Brian Tolentino, Herbalta Jr., Jake Shimabukuro,
Joe Souza and
Joe
family.
Souza and family, Keolu. You guys made
they're
this
great.
retreat such an incredible experience, even for us as well. So,
Yeah.
with that said, we hope you have a fantastic weekend. We're going to be recording Neal's backyard concert tomorrow. I just need to sleep another 12 hours
Yes.
and I'll be ready.
And then should we play through it just to end?
Oh, go for it, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just go
let's
through
do
it.
Let's do it.
Why don't we?
so-
We'll go through it twice. That way you can solo over the A sections.
Sure, yeah.
And then we'll end it, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do for the end.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do what Neal did, where you have A minor to A7. Yeah. Sometimes we'll see. I might mess this up and play the 165 and then go to A7. We'll figure it out.
We'll try that.
All right.
Exactly.
And you'll get to watch me scroll as we go through. Okay. So get your lead sheet ready. Let's all try it. A 1, a 2, 3, 4. Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we
Nice.
fall in love? Our hearts are made of it. Let's take a chance. Why be afraid of it? Oh, let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it. We might have been meant for each other. Spicy. Be or not to be, let our hearts discover.
Nice.
Let's
Nice.
fall in love. Why shouldn't we
Nice.
fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. Let's fall in love with Neal solo. Back to the top. Here we go. C. Back to the C. Here we go with that suspended. Woo! A minor. We
Nice, Neal.
might have been for each other. Here comes some spice to be or not to be. Let our hearts Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. A minor, A7. Now is the time for it. Sorry. Let's fall in love. Let's do it one more time. Go to the A7. Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in. That was nice. Love. Ooh, spicy. I liked it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you again so much for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Fun.